Mercy and blessings of God be with you all. Thank you for joining me for this live post in which I discuss a new book by Joshua Swamidass entitled The Genealogical Adam and Eve. This is the book, and it's very interesting. It's subtitled The Surprising Science of Universal Ancestry. Though the book was written a couple of years ago, published at least a couple of years ago in when was it published? 2019. I only came upon it recently, and I realized that Christians are discussing this book very much. One will find on YouTube many videos showing Christians of great repute discussing the contents of this book. Also, we have some atheist reactions, for example, from Ken Miller and Nathan Lentz. All of this is on YouTube, and I wasn't aware of that going on until recently. Within the last couple of weeks, I started looking into this. So it's a very interesting thesis, and I would like to show how a Muslim might evaluate that thesis. And in fact, I will find in the end that the Quran accommodates this theory even better than the Bible does. So let's look into it in some detail. I'm going to drink a sip of water. Bismillah. There. So, after praising Allah and asking Him to bless our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, all of the prophets and messengers of Allah, and to bless all of you here today from around the globe, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you and all of the people around you. I now begin my discussion. So this is the book by Joshua Swamidass. It's a book about 200 and some pages long. The first 100 pages or so deals with the scientific aspects, the technical issues, and then the latter half of the book deals with the theological issues that arise from that scientific observation. So what's the scientific issue? For a long time, obviously, we have been schooled about evolution, and this has become the basic presupposition in all of biological studies. Things evolve, viruses evolve. Now we are faced with the coronavirus, and we hear of new variants happening all the time. So what's happening there is that the virus is evolving and splitting into various strains. Well, in a similar way, we have been told that human beings are the end product of a long process of evolution. And end product is probably not the right term here, not to give the impression that human beings are the pinnacle. But in a way, it is in a way, a development in one branch of the evolutionary tree. So life develops from, the roots of the tree going all the way up and branching out, and human beings are on one of those branches. And that means that we share a common ancestry with the great apes, with gorillas, chimpanzees, and orangutans. So how do we evaluate that, and how do we blend that with the Quranic and biblical idea that Adam was created from dust? This was Joshua Swamidass's task to show this kind of correlation and harmony, though he didn't have his eye on the Islamic faith, which is, I think, a little bit unfortunate, because for two reasons. One is that in today's world, you can't be discussing these things without, showing some recognition that the Islamic faith is out there and real. And the Quran also has a take on the story of Adam. In one of his dialogues, probably with Ken Miller or Nathan Lentz, I don't remember now, one of these atheists, probably it was Nathan Lentz now that I think of it, who said that this has significance for the Abrahamic faith. So he was more inclusive, but I didn't see Joshua making such an inclusive type of reference. The other more important reason why I think it is important to bring the Islamic faith into this discussion is that we will see that when we come to deal with the theology section of Joshua's book, that Joshua struggles a lot to explain how his theory will gel with the Christian presuppositions and, of course, with biblical statements. And this has a lot to do with the primacy of Adam as the progenitor of the human race, and due to whom Jesus had to come and die for the sins of the world. So there was the first Adam. Jesus is said to be the second Adam. The first Adam brought sin and death. The second Adam brings grace and forgiveness and salvation. So without the first Adam, then, the question is about the second Adam. But even with Joshua's theorizing about the genealogical Adam and Eve, questions still remain about the salvation and how original sin is passed on through to all people and so on. So we need to now get into the details of what Joshua has been saying in this video. I'll just take a moment to make sure that people are able to join me, and I will know from your comments if there is anyone here. So let me see if there is any response. Yes, I see that Brother Muhammad Mustafa shared the stream, so obviously it is working. At least somebody is here, though I don't see any comments yet. Oh yes, I see that Asghar Bukhari has also shared the stream. So yes, I now see your comments. It's just arranged in a different way on the page here than I'm accustomed to. So we have a response from my brother Muhammad Doshirovic, saying, I'm one of your big fans. May Allah bless you, Doctor. Thank you, Brother Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum to you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and all of the people around you. Okay, so I'll look at other comments later on, but let me continue now with the discourse. So, what is different about this book? Well, for a long time, as I've said, we have heard that human beings are not only on one branch of the evolutionary tree, but our branch leads back to a population of human type beings that was never less than about 7 to 10,000 in population. So if that data can be traced back to about 500,000 years into our past. So where are we going to place Adam and Eve within that larger scenario? Because there never was just one couple. Well, Swamidass came up with a revolutionary idea. Well, he didn't himself come up with it, but he is the one who showed this relevance to religion, in that there were others before him, such as Joseph Chang, who worked out that when we think about not so much genetic inheritance, but we talk about the genealogical lineage. So then we can trace the human population in the world today to a common ancestors who lived, some actually only a few hundred years ago. The lowest estimate I've seen about this is about 700 years ago. So how does this work out in practice? So Joshua and Joshua Swamidass explains that, and his explanation is widely accepted and seems to be correct, that when we trace our lineages back, so each of us has 2 parents and 4 grandparents and 8 great grandparents and 16 great grandparents, something like this. So it keeps multiplying with each generation. But we know that the human population in the past was smaller than it is now. So we can't have this expanding population going backwards especially when we multiply this by every individual on the planet. We have 7 billion people on the planet. So if each of these 7 billion people had, 2 parents and 4 grandparents and 8 great-grandparents and 16 great-great-grandparents and so on, then it would mean that the past population would have to be quite massive. But we know that's not the case. So what's the solution to this apparent paradox? The solution is to recognize that we have shared ancestry. So one person's genealogical tree, at a certain point is the same as another person's genealogical tree. So they can work this out to what they call the identical ancestor point. So beyond that point in history, everyone who lived, say, some 4,000, maybe 5,000, 6,000 years ago, everyone who lived at that time either is an ancestor of everybody living today, or they're not an ancestor of anyone living today. So how could this latter situation be the case? That would be the case if they left no descendants, or they did not leave a sufficient number of descendants to have links all the way down to our present population. So with that in mind, past that identical ancestor point, everyone is, if they left descendants at all, or if they're ancestors of anyone living today, they're ancestors not only of one person, but they're ancestors of the whole human present population. So it's a remarkable idea, and it is an accepted idea. I don't see anyone disputing this basic presupposition, but to bring this now into the discourse, this is interesting. So to show the correlation between this and the religious belief in Adam and Eve. So what Joshua is saying is that many of our ancestors do not leave us. We don't see their genetic inheritance in us. We can see that human beings have evidence in their genome of inheritance from a large number of ancients. We've already said some 7,000 to 10,000 population in the past, like a population that never bottlenecked to less than, say, 7,000 to 10,000 people. But not all of the ancestors leave us their traces in the genome. We can trace some things back. So, if we ask who's a person's father, we can, by a simple DNA test nowadays, you can know who is your father. You can trace some of your ancestry back to a few generations. But beyond that, things get a little bit fuzzy, because we each have 50% of genes from our father and mother, and then 25% from each grandparent, and then 12.5% from the previous generation, and so on. So with each generation, the genetic inheritance is watered down. It is a smaller and smaller percentage. It never actually gets to zero, in theory, but to find the traces of way past generation, this appears to be non-existent. So what Joshua Swamidass calls such ancestors who do not pass on any identifiable genes to us, he calls them genetic ghosts. So we can distinguish then between our genealogical ancestry and our genetic ancestry. In the case of the genetic ancestry, we may not be able to trace it back all the way, whereas somebody is really our genealogical ancestor, let's say a great grandparent, but that person did not pass on to us any identifiable gene. But that does not mean that they're not our ancestor. They still are our ancestors. It's just that we cannot find their genes in our genome. So it's important to make this distinction. And what Joshua is saying is that the scriptures were only concerned with the genealogical ancestry, not with the genetic ancestry, because there's nothing in the Bible about genes. So it was only the scripture was concerned with saying that this is the father of this person, who is the father of that person, who is the father of that person, and so on. And we can trace the genealogical lineage down this way. So now, when we concern ourselves only with the genealogical ancestry, we realize that all people around the world today, past a certain point, like as each person traces his or her genealogical ancestry back, eventually there is a conflation. We find that at a certain point, everyone has the same shared ancestor. So beyond a certain point, that is called the identical ancestor point. Now, closer to us from that identical ancestor point, where everyone would be a shared ancestor, we have the nearly identical ancestor point, at which point there are some people who leave us, or most of the people, who are ancestors, shared ancestors of the current population. And coming even below that, we would find, the nearest to us, the most recent common ancestor of all human beings who are living today. So Joshua Swamidass is saying that because the ancestors, the shared ancestors, are so numerous, any one of the persons from that vast array of people, let's say 6,000 to 10,000 years ago, could be a shared ancestor, is a shared ancestor of all of the people who are alive today. And that means that if Adam and Eve were one of these, was a couple among these people, then they are automatically the shared and common ancestors of all of the people alive today. So that was a remarkable point that Joshua made. So now, how do we evaluate this point? Christians are responding to this in a number of ways. One of the most important and significant Christian responses is to Joshua's suggestion that the Adam and Eve were only like one couple among many other couples who were alive at the time. So those couples also left descendants, but their descendants cannot be traced all the way back down to the current population. So if we think theoretically of the one couple who can be traced back as the ancestor to all of us, this point is I'm a little bit vague about. I'm not so clear that Joshua is saying that there is only one couple who is the. No, he's not saying there is only one couple. Nor did I try to speak it out loud, and I hear myself. I realize that he's not saying that there is only one couple who is the shared ancestors of all of us. There are many shared ancestors of us all. And Adam and Eve would be one of those couples who are shared ancestors of everyone who is alive today, and so he wants to situate that couple in the Middle East, which would coincide with the biblical narrative, but there could be other shared ancestors in other parts of the world as well. If I understand him correctly. So what to put it in Joshua's terms, Adam and Eve are in the garden, and at the time when God places them in the garden, there are already people living outside of the garden. Now, of course, saying inside and outside is not necessary to Joshua's thesis, but his saying outside of the garden, this is his way of avoiding terms like pre-Adamites and Adamites. Pre-Adamites would be people who existed before Adam. Joshua is not denying that they did. And Adamites would be, descendants of Adam. And now I will introduce a third term, para-Adamites, which would be, those people who continue to exist alongside the descendants of Adam. So Joshua is not denying that either. He's saying that, in fact, the Adamites interbred with the para-Adamites. And so we are descendants not only of the Adamites, but also of the para-Adamites. And this would explain why we have in our genome evidence of inheritance from a population that was never less than 7,000 to 10,000 people. And at the same time, we would be genealogical descendants of Adamites and ultimately of Adam. So it's not that he has any scientific evidence that there is any one person who was named Adam, or who could really be an Adam corresponding to the biblical record. He's just saying that in theory, since there were so many Adamites, since there were so many Adams and Eves, so many persons who were who now it turns out are ancestors of everyone living today, then Adam could have been any one of those, and Eve as well could have been any one of those. And if we find an Adam and he is monogamous, then we find our Eve as well. So in this way, Joshua is explaining why we have this evidence of inheritance from a population that was never less than 7,000, and at the same time, how we can be descendants of a couple, Adam and Eve, genealogically, even if we do not have their genes in us anymore, because beyond a few generations, you can't find the genes that are traceable to a particular individual. So there's a lot of kickback from Christians regarding this, because to have people outside of the garden, as Joshua is saying, this now raises a lot of theological questions for Christians to deal with. For example, we know, first of all, from the Bible, the book of Genesis seems to depict the creation of Adam and Eve as though they were the first persons. But Joshua's way around this is to differentiate between Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 1, according to him, is giving us a blanket statement about the creation of people in general. And then Genesis chapter 2 is giving us a further narrative showing us the creation of a particular couple. So Joshua is saying that the distinction is that God created a large number of people, and then within that larger population, God took the dust of the earth and formed Adam, and then from Adam created Eve from the side of Adam. So they were created within that population. And Adam it was intended that they would interbreed with the surrounding population. So they were made similar genetically. So because if they were made too dissimilar genetically, then they would not be able to interbreed. And so we are the products of this interbreeding between the Adamites and the para-Adamites, the people outside of the garden, to use Joshua's term. So this raises the question about the compatibility of this with the Bible, because some Christians do not want to read the Bible as to have it say that there were people outside of Adam's lineage, or that they were humans before Adam. Joshua distinguishes between textual humans and biological humans. So for Joshua, the people outside of the garden are biological humans. It's similar to Adam and Eve and their descendants. But for Joshua, the Bible is only concerned with Adam and his descendants. So as far as the Bible is concerned, these are the humans. So Joshua is calling them textual humans. They're not different biologically, but they're different only because of the textual recognition. So these are textual humans. The others are humans as well, but humans biologically. So this too raises problems. Are we going to differentiate between the textual and non-textual humans? For Joshua, this is not a problem, because in the present day, the para-Adamites do not leave any descendants in surviving into the present day. And all of the people in the present day are Adamites. So to him, there is no problem of racism here and differentiating between Adamites and non-Adamites. But others are still concerned. In reading Joshua's book, we see that Joshua leaves the possibility open that there could have been some isolated pockets of people who were not interbreeding with the rest of the population. And so they might have escaped being Adamites or being descendants of Adam. So he deals with some isolated regions of the world, like some uh, um, islands, and even the Americas, which was colonized more recently, as people were said to come out of Africa into the Middle East, into Europe, and maybe some crossed the Bering Strait and entered America, or maybe some people came by boat to America. Nonetheless, we have the problem of Easter Island and even Honolulu. So how do we get all of these people to be descendants of Adam? And then what are we to say about Australia, which is somewhat isolated from the landmass as well, and even more isolated is Tasmania. So he tries to trace the history of all of these, and in the end, he admits that the matter is not so clear about Tasmania. Could we say that Tasmanians are also descendants of Adam? For them to be descendants of Adam, Adam would have to exist much earlier, before Tasmania became separated, or at least the land bridge that was available became inundated with the rising sea level. So there are issues here, in which leads issues which lead Joshua to say that Adam then, in that case, would not be the ancestor of all human beings, but they would be nearly the ancestors. Adam and Eve would be nearly the ancestors of all human beings. And to him, this is enough, because he says the scriptures do not speak with scientific precision. So he's able to accommodate this sort of vagueness in his overall plan. But these are concerns for others as well. Now, if you say that there are people outside of the garden, as Joshua is saying, and then there is Adam, and now the question is, what about the salvation of those people? Like, do they have the original sin from Adam as well? And how do they get that original sin? And did Jesus die for them as well? So these are very important questions, and Joshua struggles with this throughout his book. Well, at least in the last half of the book, when he's dealing with the theological questions, and it's a very difficult problem. One of the things I don't find Joshua addressing well enough is, what's the wisdom of creating Adam in the first place? If you already have a population of people, and they're not tainted with Adam's sin, and then God creates Adam, and then as a result of Adam's sin, God has to send his son to die for the sins of the world. And so, to me, this is a problem, and I don't see that Joshua has addressed this well enough. To him, the purpose of Adam might have been to be a prophet to the other people. Well, he doesn't say prophet exactly. He says, to inform those people in a way. Well, from my perspective, this is a prophet. So, in short, I would say that it seems that Joshua's theory is a remarkable one. It helps people to see how it is possible for all human beings today to be the descendants of a particular couple, among many other descendants, but how to identify one particular couple as being among our ancestors, and that has some correlation with the biblical record. I would say that it's more easily accommodatable in the Islamic system of thought and in the Quran. Why? Because the Quran, first of all, let me drink some water. The Quran contains a lot of vagueness regarding Adam and Eve. And so we don't have these, details of, Adam was put to sleep and then Eve was formed from a rib of Adam, and so on. We don't have this 7-day creation story where, God rested on the seventh day, just similar to our week with our day and night, followed by day and night and day, and then God rests on the seventh day. And the sequence of who is created when this all is not there in the Quran, and that allows the Quranic narrative to more easily accommodate this theory about the genealogical Adam and Eve. Moreover, the Quran and does not have this concept of somebody dying for our sins, and then the question of who died for the people of who are outside of the garden does not arise. Moreover, the Quran has indications that there were people who were there with Adam at the time. Adam and Eve were not apparently alone. And we can see this now. People did not see this so much in the past because they were not forced to look. But now we're forced to look because we have the new scientific evidence, and we're looking at the Quran and the Bible to see if these narratives are compatible with what we know from science. And we can see that there are indications in the Quran that there were other people along with Adam and Eve as well. So, for example, in the 7th chapter of the Quran, in the 11th verse, we have وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَاكُمْ ثُمَّ صَوَّرْنَاكُمْ ثُمَّ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ. We have created you, then we fashioned you, then we said to the angels, bow down to Adam. Now, the you here, kum in Arabic, is plural, whereas ka would be singular, kuma would be dual, and kum is plural. So if God was just speaking about the creation of Adam and Eve, God might have said, we have created the two of you. Or if God is addressing us now as a large population, yes, he could be addressing us, we have created you. But of course, if you think about the sequence, created you, then fashioned you, then told the angels to bow down. So the Quran here is depicting a scene in which there are plural people before the angels were told to bow down to Adam. Now, we can say that the Quran might be interpreted in a way to say, the Quran is using the plural here to refer to us as though we were already created with the creation of Adam, not there as a done deal, but that's our inception. So in a corporate way, we are all created in Adam. Let's put it this way. But it's also possible that the Quran here is saying that I created your species, and then I fashioned your species, then I told the angels to bow down to Adam in particular, in which case Adam is singled out from the whole community, and he is the chief or the leader, and also a prophet to his people. We have in the 20th chapter of the Quran, I believe it's the 124th verse, where Allah says, ثُمَّ اجْتَبَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ وَهَدَى. Then God chose him and forgave him and guided him. So that's God choosing and guiding Adam. I'm just looking up the verse here to make sure that I get it exactly right, because the last time I quoted this in a debate, I did not conjoin the correct particle, and some people made an issue of that. So let me just be sure. So we're looking at the 20th surah of the Quran, and so here we go. Yes. So I said 124th verse, 123, 124, 100 and... Okay, so here we are, 115, وَلَقَدْ عَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ Adam, and we made a covenant with Adam, that's 115, and then why can't I find it when I'm looking for it? Anyway, I can't see it at a glance now, and I don't want to hold you up, but maybe I'll find it later. Okay. So In short, God chose Adam and according to the tafsir of Ar-Razi, made him a prophet, because when we have the verbs together, chose him and guided him, this indicates that he is a prophet to his people. In Surah Al-Baqarah, we have the narrative that Satan refused to bow down to Adam, and we know from other surahs that when he refused, God said to him, get out of here. It's not appropriate for you to remain in paradise. So that means that Adam and Eve remain in the Jannah, in the garden, and then they eat from the tree, and then God says to them to get out from the garden, but it's plural in form. The instruction, "Qul nabitu minha jami'a," get out all of you from here together. So again, we have to distinguish in the Arabic between the singular, the dual, and the plural. Plural is three or more persons. So it's not the dual that is mentioned here, though it is mentioned in other places in the dual in the Quran. But here, the plural is mentioned. So why the plural and not the dual in this case? The plural could be mentioned here. Some would say because somehow it includes Satan as well. But Satan had already been driven out. But still, it's not impossible to include Satan as well, especially if Satan found a way to sneak his way back into paradise, which seems a little bit unreal. But nonetheless, let's say, that's a possibility. But it is also possible that the plural address is given because it's not only Adam and Eve, but a plurality of human persons that were being expelled from the garden at this point. So, of course, it doesn't mean that the others are responsible for Adam's sin, but as a corporate entity, the whole group is dealt with summarily due to the sin of Adam. And I would, in my understanding of the Quran, this is not so much a penalty for the sin, but it's a consequence. It's when this happens, this happens. So, at this point, Adam and his people are ripe for exiting the garden and being in the wider world to deal with the challenge of the Satan, which they will always face. So with indications like this, to me, the Quranic narrative is more easily accommodating to this theory that Joshua Swamidass has put forward in this excellent book entitled The Genealogical Adam and Eve, The Surprising Science of Universal Ancestry. It's a must-read. Christians and Muslims both should read this book and get a better understanding of this theory. It is a widely discussed theory among Christians today, and it's about time that Muslims join in that discussion as well to bring the Islamic view to bear on the question, so that others cannot know that Muslims have a view here which is more easily accommodating to that theory. So I will start looking at your questions and comments and try to deal with them the best that I can. Okay. Abdul Hakim saying, question, what is Dr. Swamidass's view of the genetic relationship between homogeneous and non-homo species? Does he think the genetic, somehow that jumped. Where is your comment? Okay. Somehow the whole screen changed on me, Abdul Hakim. I can't find your question at a glance now, but okay, I see it now. Does he think the genetic similarities between us and animals are too much to deny a direct common descent of us from other species? There was one interesting paper that talks about this and other evidences that concludes the scientific proof is very strong, but falls short of being completely certain. That is, the belief that Adam and Eve were made miraculously can't be disproven. Gisbert, Van der Brink, Jerome de Ridder, and Rene Woodenberg, the epistemic status of evolutionary theory, theology, and science. Okay, that looks like an interesting book. So Abdul Hakim, what he's saying is that, he's not denying any of the scientific evidence showing that we are, we share common ancestry with the great apes. and that we have genetic inheritance from thousands of ancestors. But he's saying that when we distinguish between the genetic inheritance and the genealogical lineage, we can see that it's possible to trace all human beings today. Not only is it possible, but all human beings today share a common ancestry with people who lived beyond like 6,000 years ago. And he makes a further distinction, which I should have included in my review of the book earlier on, in that he tries to see, given this kind of knowledge that, beyond so many thousands of years, everyone who lived are either ancestors of everyone alive today or of no one. He tries to take another point in history, let's say 81, so that we can know what was the situation at the time when the New Testament writings were put into place and when Jesus was preaching. So starting from 81, if we take the population at that time, do they all trace back to a common ancestor? And yes, that too is the case. Of course, to many common ancestors. And if we want to place Adam and Eve among the common ancestors, then Adam and Eve would have to have lived about, say 4 to... about 4,000 years before that, which would mean some 6,000 years ago, which coincidentally is the same as the Jewish history and the Bible's summation of all of the ages of the generations of the past. But he said that's purely coincidental. He's just working out the numbers separately, and he's not saying that Adam and Eve had to be at that time, but they could be anything. Any time before that, because of course we have when we trace ourselves back to a common ancestor, then all of the ancestors of that common ancestor are also our ancestors genealogically anyway. So we have lots of common ancestors, and out of that whole large pool of common ancestors, Adam and Eve can be placed anywhere there. So according to him, according to Joshua Swamidass, not only are we descendants of this genealogical line, but we're descendants of the other people who we cannot so trace ourselves back to other people apart from the one that we'll call Adam and Eve. So we'll call one of these two of these people Adam and Eve, and then there's still a large other population, and we share the genes from all of this population. Some of the genes are not traceable, but we have evidence of genes from this large population, but we just can't trace them individually. But they do exist. Joshua is not denying that. So, Abdul Hakim, I'm going to go back to the beginning now to see everyone who has made a comment. I didn't set any preferences, so I should be seeing all of the comments. So let me see. Okay. Urdu for specials. I don't know what comment you have. I couldn't see a comment. And Saliu saying salam, wa alaikum assalam, watching from the CV Island. Thank you, Saliu. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and bless all of the people around you. Now, you might have told me previously what is CV Island. I'm so sorry, I forgot. Get my brother. Please remind me. And Modar Ismail, assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. And Shahid Al-Shazli saying assalamu alaikum. Could you please show us the book you showed a while ago? I'd love to read more about this. And here is the book again. The Genealogical Adam and Eve by Joshua Swamidass. The Surprising Science of Universal Ancestry. So yeah, it's a very interesting book. Okay, so where are we in the comments here? Okay, Shazli again. I agree with this perspective. I came to think of this a while ago. This is the first time I hear someone speak of this. Well, it's always the first time. I'm learning as we go. I realized from the photo that it's a sister Shad. Thank you for your kind comments. And Ali Fayazi, Shabir, are you Ahmadiyya Muslim? No, my brother. Abdul Hakim, there are some other evolutionary specialists like Professor Richard Buggs who have pointed out that the 10,000 ancestor pool is only if we consider anything less than 500,000 years ago. Okay. This seems like we can thus suggest a single pair of ancestors as long as they were before 500,000 years ago. The only question is if we can consider other human types, Neanderthals, Denisovans, etc., as humans. It seems we can, but this is inconclusive given the problematic nature of the archaeological remains and lack of brain samples which can give us an idea as to how exactly they behaved. And references: The Rise of Homo Sapiens, The Evolution of Modern Thinking, book by Frederick Coolidge. These are very important references, Abdul Hakim. You're well studied. Thank you for these. Okay, and second, How to Think Like a Neanderthal, reprint edition by Thomas Wynne. And three, Why Are There So Many Explanations for Primate Brain Evolution? And evolution of nervous systems, interesting. Evolution of large brain and body size in mammals, role of endocasts in the study of brain evolution, A.M. Balanoff, and so on. Okay, so interesting collection of reading materials. I'm especially interested in that first one. That says that if we consider anything older than 500,000 years ago, then it's possible that Adam and Eve was a single couple from that time. I think Joshua Swamidass, not I think, but I recall that he said also that, beyond that, things are a little bit vague. So we're not so very clear about older than 500,000 years ago. But Neanderthals and Denisovans were more recent, and these are apparently anatomically human beings, especially since they interbred with Homo sapiens. And, the large populations of humans today have evidence of Neanderthal genes in them, especially Europeans. And then the people in the Asian region, Eastern Asia, have evidence of Denisovan genes as well. So there was some interbreeding, and that would have been only possible if they were genetically similar enough. So, Abdul Hakim, question: I'm interested in reading Swamidass's book later. What does he consider to be human? Does he include Denisovans, Neanderthals, etc.? Yes, he's including them as biological humans, but he's distinguishing between textual humans and non-textual humans. And since Neanderthals became extinct about 40,000 years ago, and probably Denisovans about maybe the same period of time, and he's thinking of genealogical Adam and Eve that are more recent, maybe about 6,000 years ago and up to about 10,000 years ago. And then he's saying that these are the textual humans, Adam and his descendants. So the others are not humans from the biblical point of view. They're not textual humans. They're not humans who are spoken about in the text, but we can now consider them to be humans, at least biologically, and that the Bible says that God created humans in the image of God, while we can think about them also as bearing the image of God. So Swamidass wants to be inclusive, but of course he is hampered by the biblical record here, because he is asking the question, are those people in the image of God? But remember that he distinguished between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. In Genesis 1, it says that God made humans in the image of God. But according to Swamidass, that's the larger population before creating Adam and Eve. And now Genesis chapter 2 speaks about the creation of Adam and Eve. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see in Genesis chapter 2 any mention that Adam and Eve were created in the image of God. To have Adam and Eve created in the image of God, it seems that you have to latch this on to Genesis chapter 1 and say that this is a further detail of what is already described in Genesis chapter 1. Swamidass is asking, are those people humans? He has no hesitation in calling them people, and he has no hesitation in calling them biological humans. But are they like humans accommodatable within the text of the Bible? This is what he's asking. But it should be the other way around. Like he's asking, do they have the image of God? But it looks like now he should be asking, does Adam and Eve have the image of God? Because once he separates Genesis chapter 1 from Genesis chapter 2, and he says that Genesis chapter 1 is about the wider population, and then Genesis chapter 2 is only about the creation of this specific couple, then the statement about the image of God only applied to the larger population. And you can only say that by extension, we hope that this applies to Adam and Eve as well. So there are problems that he has to address. Anyway, Dawuni Peter Augustine, thanks for this topic. I hope I will today know the Islamic view of Adam's death. Adam's death. I don't see that much is mentioned in the Quran regarding Adam's death. Is there something mentioned in Hadith? There is something about Adam giving 40 of his years to his descendant Dawood. There's something vague in my mind about that. There is a hadith narrative that when it came for time for him to die, he had seen somehow, he had somehow like foreseen one of the prophets, probably Dawood, and when the angel, and he said, I give 40 of my years to him. So when the angel of death came to take his life, he said, is my time really up yet? And then the angel reminded him, but didn't you give 40 of your years to your descendant? So anyway, there's something like that. I don't take this to be a genuine narrative, but nonetheless, that's something that is mentioned. But it's not in the Quran. Now, in the Bible, it says that Adam was threatened. If you eat from the fruit of the tree, you will die that same day. But of course, he didn't die that same day, and he went on to live for perhaps 960 years in total. One might say, well, the day in the sight of the Lord is 1,000 years, so he died within the 1,000 years. But that is, an interpretation that needs to be thought about some more. Okay, Abdul Hakim, question, Dr. Shabir, have you read Dr. Solomon Jalajil's MS thesis on this, Islam and Biological Evolution, exploring classical Sunni sources and methodologies available online? He has a similar view on this as Dr. Swamidass, though he also thinks we can depict Adam and Eve as being miraculously made alone and being the only human beings. There is also a Shia scholar also who has very good and similar articles on this, Fatima Meji. Becoming Bani Adam. Okay, I'm going to look at this last one, but I have Jalajil's book entitled Islam and Biological Evolution. David Solomon Jalajil. It's an interesting read. And so, yes, he has a similar view that, in a way, there's some correlation here in that he's saying that there could be pre-humans and then, humans alongside with Adam and Eve who are being created specifically at that time. De novo is the term that Swamidass uses for that, and probably Jalajil uses it as well. I'm not sure, but that would be a good term to say that they are created de novo. They are created afresh, rather than being, part of that that pool of human beings and generated from the pool of human beings. Okay, so I'm going to look at this one by Fatima. I'm going to look at these articles by Fatima Maji. I'm going to just look that up in my. Yeah, okay, I see it. Mizan Institute. Okay, good. I'll have a look at that later on, God willing. Okay, and coming to Lubika, Assalamu alaikum, may God bless you and your family, you too, sister, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, all of the people around you. And Muhtar, what is the perspective of Islam on the subject of Adam and Eve? Could there be possibly a possibility that verses on Adam and Eve in the Quran are metaphorical, as Al-Quran is a book of science rather than of science? Yeah, some things may be metaphorical. It requires a little bit more study. Of course, this is quite new because in the past, our scholars just simply took them as literal descriptions of the creation of Adam and Eve. They, tied that in with the biblical narrative as well. So when they're reading the Quran, they have the biblical story in mind, and they do not quite distinguish sometimes between the nuances of the Quran and the biblical record. So they just kind of like incorporated everything and made the Quran mean what the Genesis story already said. So we have to look at this afresh, and that's a challenge for us, but we have to rise to the challenge. All right, okay, Sister Al-Shazli. Ripe was very accurate description, in my opinion, to why they were sent down from the garden. Jazakallahu khairan. Yes, thank you, sister. And as I will put that in a different way, I would say that, as children are growing up, first they go to kindergarten, then they graduate from kindergarten. They have to go to a higher level school, and the higher the level of schooling, the greater the test. But it's only when the child is ready to go to that higher level that they are pushed forward. And one might say, no, I want to keep going to kindergarten. I love my crayons and drawing and playing all day and sleeping for half the day and whatever. Why do I have to go to this, higher school where I have to do all of this work and homework and all of that? So, but you must go. There must be a development. So, in a similar way, the human population was developing. They developing mentally, intellectually, spiritually, and there comes a time when they have to go out into the world to face the higher tests. So that to me is the reason that they're driven out of the garden. Okay, Hassan Omar, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Shabir. Kindly explain what does it mean when it says God rested on the seventh day? I thought Muslims believe that God doesn't get tired or need rest. And you're right, Brother Hassan. I was only speaking from the biblical narrative's point of view, where it says that God rested and he was refreshed, according to Exodus chapter 31, verse 17. But from the Quran, apparently replying to that, says in Surah 50, verse number 38, that after God created the heavens and the earth, وَمَا مَسَّنَا مِن لُغُوبٍ, nothing of weariness touched him. So God doesn't get tired, according to the Islamic view. And most of you have memorized Ayatul Kursi. It says, لَا تَأْخُذُهُ سِنَةٌ وَلَا نَوْمٌ, and neither tiredness or sleepiness nor sleep itself catches hold of him. Farhan, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Shabir, and wa alaikum assalam. My brother, excellent subject. Thank you. I had a question. In Islam, one can have inner peace by remembering Allah, keeping in mind all the prophets that have been sent. Would it be the same within the people of the book, that is Jews and Christians, and the faiths outside of that fall? Let me read your question one more time to make sure that I quite understand it. One can have inner peace in Islam by remembering Allah. But it'd be the same for the people of the book. Yeah, I think people across religions, not only people of the book, but across religions, have similar types of responses. Someone wrote a book entitled The Varieties of Human Experience. His name is William James. I haven't read the book myself, but this book has become a classic and it's widely discussed and quoted and so on. So basically, as I understand it, the thesis of his book is that across the world's religions, people have similar types of experience, of course, with some variety, but the religions are basically very similar in that regard. Okay, and Sister Shazli saying thank you, and Jazakumullah khairan for joining and being part of the discussion. Okay, Abdul Hakim, in your view, what would Dr. Swamidass say about de novo miraculous creation of Adam and Eve around maybe the early time of Homo erectus? God would basically be making us in a way similar to the existing creatures, which is why we have similar genetic structures to animals. God just designed us in a similar way. I recall Dr. William Lane Craig also discussing these issues with Dr. Swamidass, and William Lane Craig's view is that the science doesn't completely disprove this theory, although WLC is still open to accepting Adam and Eve had physical parents. So Dr. Craig's book on the subject is going to come out soon. Maybe in a couple of months, and I'm looking forward to reading his book as well. So Dr. Craig is placing Adam and Eve among the Heidelberg man as type of humans, named after a skeletal remains that was found in in Heidelberg in Germany. So Homo heidelbergensis is what that species is called, or that that subgroup among human beings. So and that would that would be among Homo erectus. So I have yet to see his complete discussion of that, but Dr. William Lane Craig is treating the Genesis narrative as a quasi-mythical narrative. And so he's not giving, credence to all of the literal details in that. And yes, he is placing the ancestry back into that period of time, some 750,000 years ago. But Dr. Swamidass wants to place it not 750,000 years ago, more like 7,500 years ago, 7,500 years ago, more, like 6,000 years, and he's, allowing up to 10,000 years. He's not saying, Joshua Swamidass is not saying that something like William Lane Craig's view is impossible, but he is saying that Adam would have been created, he's trying to find harmony between the literal narrative of Genesis and the scientific theory. It was a very difficult task. And, to do that, Joshua has to ignore many things, as I've already pointed out. And on the other hand, somebody like William Lane Craig is saying, no, if we want to give, if we want to treat the Bible in the proper way, we have to place Adam at the headwaters of human evolution, and so all people will be descendants of Adam. So this is William Lane Craig's point, that we have to place Adam way back in history so that he is definitely the ancestor of all human beings. He doesn't want there to be some people in the garden, some people outside the garden, and they're all humans. He wants that only the descendants of Adam could be human, and therefore he has to place Adam way back when, some 750,000 years ago, among the Heidelberg man type of human being. Whereas for Joshua Swamidass, it's fine to have Adam about 6,000 years ago, at which time there are already in existence people like Adam, or to put it another way around, Adam is going to be made like those people genetically so that he can interbreed with them. And why do we have the evidence of this, inheritance from a large group of past population? That is because the people outside the garden, who were not descendants of Adam, who are pre-Adam, they already had that genetic inheritance from the large pool. And when Adam is created, he has to be created similar to them. So his genes would be quite similar to their genes. And then when Adam's descendants interbred with the others, with the other people on the planet, then naturally we are the descendants of this interbreeding, and we carry the same genes as well, which show evidence of inheritance from a large population. Okay, and Abdul Hakim saying David Solomon Jalajil is amazing, and yes, I find that too. Thank you. Al-Hajj Ilyas Olajiri Ajibola. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, my brother. Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Almighty Allah continue His blessing upon you and all of us. Thank you, and you as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and all the people around you. Abdul Hakim, I'm reading Dr. Jalajil and other sources. I have found that many commentators have mentioned stories of Adam and Eve's immediate children marrying whores, jinns, etc. While these are only stories, it shows that there is an idea of a third party being involved in our human ancestor line. It is not completely alien to even medieval tafsir scholars. One sees it a lot in Shia tafsirs, but also it exists in Sunni sources as well. See, for example, Shafi Osmani's commentary on Sulaiman's story, where he brings up stories of certain humans marrying non-humans. Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to look at it because I happen to have Mufti Muhammad Shafi's commentary right here. So probably I'm going to find this in Sulaiman's story in here, Ma'rif al-Quran. Okay, that'd be interesting. Thank you for pointing that out. And the Shia scholars have said that there's not just one Adam, but there have been a series of Adams. And it's interesting that the Quran says that God said to the angels, I'm going to make a Khalifa on earth. And a Khalifa can mean many things. So one of the things it could mean is that the Khalifa comes after some other person. So there might have been people here on the earth, and then God created Adam to be the Khalifa, the new representative. You know how Abu Bakr is the first Khalifa, right? So what does that mean? He's a successor to the Prophet. And then Omar is the Khalifa that comes after him. He's the successor of Abu Bakr, and so on. So that's one of the meanings of Khalifa, from Khalf, which means behind. It means like come after in this case. So it may be that there were people already on the earth. And when the angel said, why are you going to create on earth that sort of species who was going to cause bloodshed? So the question for the tafsir scholars is, how do the angels know that Adam will cause bloodshed? So now they, of course, they know because Allah informed them. But the tafsir scholars say that prior to human beings created, there were jinns on the planet, and the jinns were shedding blood with each other. Now the question is about human beings. Human beings are going to do the same. That's why the angels are asking, well, how do jinns shed blood? Jinns are invisible creatures to us. We have to imagine jinns being in flesh and blood form, so that they have blood to shed. So a more natural explanation is that there were human beings already on the planet. They were shedding blood. Allah creates Adam, knowing that Adam will have the guidance from Allah to share with the rest, which is one of Swamidass's points, actually, that Adam is, created in order to guide the others. So to us, that means that he's a prophet. And God made a covenant with Adam, which is one of the ways in which, Swamidass is trying to distinguish. What distinguishes Adam from the rest? Well, he said it could be vocational, could be structural, or could be relational. Vocational means he has a certain job to do. Structural means that he has like a unique structure, distinguishable from the others. And relational means that he has a special relationship with God, whereas the others do not. So in terms of vocational, he has a covenant to fulfill. And it's interesting that the Quran mentioned that Adam had a covenant with God in the verse that I referred to previously, which was in Surah 20, verse number 115. وَلَقَدْ عَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ Adam. We made a covenant with Adam. And then the verse I was looking for is 122, where it says, ثُمَّ اجْتَبَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ وَهَدَاهُ. God chose him and forgave him and guided him. So, interesting stuff. All right. So Shoaib Ahmed Malik, Dr. Shabir, my name is Shoaib. I recently published a book on Islam and evolution with Routledge. It's available for free open access. That's so nice of you, my brother, for making this free. Islam and Evolution, Al-Ghazali. Okay, good. I'm going to look at that later on. Thank you. Thank you for that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and reward you for this excellent work. We need more and more Muslims to deal with this subject, and it's a pity that it's not being discussed so well enough. I'm trying to paste this into my link. Trying to paste the link. Eventually I'll find it. Islam and Evolution, Al-Ghazali. All right. And Anis Ahmed, believing Eve is created from the rib of Adam is a kind of patriarchal society view, isn't it? Am I right? Well, Anis, this is what is mentioned in the Bible, and it's interesting that some hadiths also borrow that story, and we find this in the books of tafsir and so on. But we should distinguish between what the Quran says and what other sources say. Other sources, may be correct, but the Quran is definitely correct for Muslims. So we should not confuse the two. So from the Quran, this idea about Eve being created from the side of Adam doesn't really hold up. The Quran says, "خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا." We created you from a single soul, and then from it create its mate. But this, first of all, this is talking about nafs, which is soul. It could be the whole person, but it could be just the spiritual side of the person. So maybe this is like creating a soulmate for the first person. And then too, it could be interpreted in a non-corporate way. So when the Quran is saying that خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ, we created you from a single soul, it could mean that we created each and every one of you from like a pair of people, from male and female. So too in the 49th chapter of the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَىٰ وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. O humankind, we have created you from a male and a female and made you into nations and tribes so that you may know each other. So in that verse too, we can think of all human beings being created from a single pair, in which case we're thinking something like Adam and Eve, and they becoming the ancestors of all people. Or we can think that each and every one of us is created from a male and female, meaning our own fathers and mothers. And that means that we're all created in a similar way, and then God, groups us into nations and tribes so that we can recognize each other. So there's a lot to look at, and one should not take things literally, and one should be very careful to distinguish between what the Quran actually says and what somebody else says that the Quran means. I'm going to end here very quickly. One last comment from Abdul Hakim Shoaib Ahmed Malik. I used to watch a lot of your videos and interviews while also reading Dr. Jalajil and others. I look forward to reading your book eventually. I too look forward to reading Brother Shoaib's book, especially since it's now made available to me for free. Thank you, Brother Shoaib. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. And now, I realize that he has videos as well, which I will look for. So, thank you all for joining me. I'm so blessed that there are people who are interested in what I have to say, but I also feel the burden of responsibility that I have to speak the truth, and I have to say what I know and what I research. Some of my knowledge may be wrong. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for that. If I make any mistakes, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. And if I say anything correctly, then I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his guidance. Thank you all for joining me. You are my inspiration to keep going with this kind of research and this sort of work and presenting here. But I'd also like your financial assistance, please. Go to our website, islaminfo.com, and that's where you can send a donation to help us keep the mission alive so that we can continue to broadcast the message of Islam to the wider world. Thank you all for joining. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and all of the people around you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you all from COVID-19 and from every other sickness and disease and stress and distress. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My next time will be on Friday, inshallah, with my sermon being broadcast live, probably at 2:45 in the afternoon. And then next Sunday, 12:30, right here on my Facebook page. Fi amanillah. Assalamu alaikum.